Major General John Eninche joins us this morning to discuss that and several other insecurity issues, especially in the north of Nigeria. He is a coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Defense Headquarters. Thank you for joining us this morning, General. Well, the natural question anyone would want to ask you first is, it's been more than 10 years since we've been dealing with this insurgency. What exactly is going on? Are we missing something somewhere? Are we losing the battle? Is Boko Haram gaining ground again? Please bring us up to speed so people can understand.
Thank you very much for having me on the program this morning. Just like you have said, we have been on this issue, particularly in the Northeast, for about 10 years now. And incidentally, I want to state that I was part of it as far back as 20 years ago. Why am I placing it on that? Because the issue of insecurity with particular reference to these heinous crimes and criminality that has dovetailed and metamorphosed into insurgency and terrorism in the narrowed down to the 3 states of the Northeast now, did not just start 10 years ago. Let me now give an example quickly. As at then, I was in the first multinational joint task force as the engineer commander under General Temlong retired. And we operated severally. The epicenter then was between Mungunu and Baga. And it would surprise people to hear that as far back as it were then, the criminals who call themselves Kwanta, robbing people, collecting levies and all, we captured some weapons from them. These are the same kind of weapons we are seeing today, less short of gunships. Is it the general purpose machine gun, the mortar, and then the AK-47 rifles, amongst others. Having said that, I want to state that this thing is a long-rooted issue. And now let me bring it closer home to the 10 years ago or thereabout that we have all come to agree with now, that it started then. That was when they came out, after saying that Western education is bad, it's not good and all, and came out with this ideology that does not conform with what the religions in this country practice, and particularly in that area. And then they started. And when they started, what was the situation? I will now summarize it. Several places, the slaughter, as we will call it, and the murder, the killings were so much high, up till 2015. I think at a particular time, even beyond the enclave where we have the issue so much now, particularly Adamawa, Borno, and then Yobe State, even in Kano, in one sweep, 120 killed in one day in a mosque. In Kaduna, in Niger, amongst others, even as close as the Federal Capital Territory, we had those challenges. And the thing started narrowing down. Then from 2015 up to 2016, the thing now was almost eradicated completely with the various operational strategies that came in, up to domination. Now, after that, we now started having cases here and there. And the major issue we had, as it were, was the issue of giving information, credible information to help the first package that, that was on ground, the armed forces and other security agencies.
But before you go to those other issues, General, just a moment, General. Before you go to those other issues, now you have mentioned the challenges, the main issues that have arisen, the infractions, the offenses, the crimes that have been committed, murder, gunshots. Can you hear me?
No, not here. Just say again.
Okay. Now you have told us, you have given us a backstory of what they do. Have we been able to trace the root causes? What is it that is making these things happen in the first place? And how come we are not able to get ahead of them before we hear of these killings and deaths and all of the other fatalities?
Okay, like I told you earlier on, the major challenge we had then was the issue of getting credible information, of which I tell you that of recent, not too long ago, we have started having some sort of support, some sort of encouragement by providing limited information, which has helped a lot. Now, if you talk about the effort being made, is a whole lot of stakeholders' effort, which, if you look at the way the governor has been going about it, encouraging people, doing a lot of things to show them that, look, both the military, the armed forces, the security agencies, and the government is involved, is interested in their welfare. And people are getting encouraged, little by little to come out. So every stakeholder, every person concerned and is responsible for security in this area is doing a lot. But like we have identified, it's not easy for some people, particularly those who benefit from the criminality, to easily come out of it. So those are the remnants that you are still seeing reacting. Of course, you will discover that I think the last two, up to this one that happened on Saturday, it's like going to corner the people. The first one, they say, we are coming to preach to you, deceive them. And then this one now, somebody like the commentator, the person that answers some questions now, that they didn't even hear gunshots, just like cornering them and all. So it is, all the stakeholders are working together, and we believe that it will be handled, particularly when the people now believe in the government, believe in everybody, that, look, you are there for our welfare. Now, I can say that to about 80%, this idea of saying Western education is bad is almost gone. It's just that to have support, to provide support for the people that are ready on ground for them to tackle the security, the situation there. Yes. That is what I believe is left.
Okay. Now, you dated back to 20 years ago. 1999 or thereabout.
Yeah.
Now, when this happened about that time, what was the reason? What were you able to find out as the reason why people go into this criminality in the first place?
As it were then, I remembered even when it happened then, they called them bandits. And the first commander then, General Temlong retired, said, no, these are not bandits, these are enemies of the land. People using weapons against us, people killing people, slaughtering people, and then it was not defined as it is now, because people sometimes, they were nonchalant about it. They were even collecting levies. So the reason then, what is the reason for banditry as it is now? If you now take banditry as a definition, it is the same thing. So that was what they were looked at, bandits and criminals who are not ready to do anything reasonable. That was the reason, and then we were to take them out, and then the whole thing started then, as it were. So there was no, as it were, then it was not defined that it was an ideology. They didn't come up with any ideology, as it were, then it was criminality, and it was handled as criminality.
Now, talking about this case, I mean, a lot of Nigerians are still trying to wrap their heads around how over 40 farmers were slaughtered just like that. And I mean, the person you were referring to, one of the survivors, was saying that, well, they had been in some form of contact with these terrorists. In fact, they will tell them to help them carry loads, and they will do that. So apparently, these terrorists were amongst them way before now. So how is that even possible that we didn't get word of the presence of those terrorists before this attack happened?
Okay, now, you see, I'm happy that you have identified this, because that has been our worry. It's a concern to us. For instance, just like they were among them, like he said, we believe strongly, but you need to be led, you need a guide, you need information. Would they tell us? That's a question that we have to ask. Yes, sometimes, and most times no. And that was one of the issues that we have been trying to ensure that we overcome, with civil-military cooperation activities, reaching out to them, even sending people, by proxy to talk to them. Those are the things that, has been one of the bane of the success, final success in this, in the whole of this operation. Now look at another situation. Our patrols will pass through a route in a village. By the time you are going, some people are looking at you. When you are coming back, the next thing is that you meet an IED planted on the road. And people saw them, they won't tell you. So that is the area that I think we are all working together, like I said, the stakeholders. So you are very right in that. And it's not possible to force information out of people. It's not possible at all. Just like they will say you force the horse to the river but not to drink water. So all we are doing is to ensure that we bring up their confidence in the system and then encourage them that, look, this thing is not good for you. Now, they did not expect that this will happen. Even those ones that they deceive that they are preaching to them. And that has been one of the things. So, but gradually, we believe from the moves made by all stakeholders that we are going to overcome that. And then finally, it will just become normal criminality that can be handled easily.
So you're saying prior to this time, the villagers had been sort of conniving with the terrorists, even giving them information about Nigerian military's movement. Is that what has been happening prior to this time?
I didn't say that, and I'm not saying that. The villagers won't do that. In every society, we have as it is now, we have a divided, I will call it, in a population. You have criminals here. That one is normal and natural. If you now generalize it and say the whole villagers, that means it's not a true assertion, it's not a true situation on the ground. There are a few people there, people who work for them, just like in the Northwest, blaming the great elite. You have informants who tell them, give them movements about, give them information about the movements of security agencies. The moment you pass and go, they now come and rustle cow and then go away. So that is it. That is the same thing everywhere. That you have criminals, informants. They have their own informants. And those are the people I'm talking about, not the whole village.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing I said. I said the villagers, and you just laid credence to that. But pretty much this is in a bid to solve this whole challenge. And I mean, this has lingered for long. You say 10 years, 20 years, and still we have this. But I'd like to know, with the current state of things as it stands right now, would it have been possible maybe, because these farmers were going, they were going to earn a living, and they were torn betwixt either staying at home and getting hungry or going to the farms to earn a living. Could it have been possible to maybe provide them with some form of air support? I'm just thinking, because there are a lot of questions out there. So let's try to take them one by one, just so that we avoid this happening again. Could it have been possible to probably provide them air support or ground support such that they are protected?
Yes, I will say that that is one of the things we are doing in the Northwest now. We call it the farm patrol and then market patrol. In the Northwest now, that is the strategy, or the strategy that is being done, and it's succeeding a lot. As it were, I know that in the Northeast also, we used to have that, but it was not captioned the way I said it. And now, when we do our threat analysis, you will now look at what you should apply to handle the situation there. We have now seen that from this incident, they will need it. But again, we have seen in situations whereby when you want to provide a particular aspect of security service, you need the cooperation of the people. And we believe that with this one now, there's going to be a whole lot of package. Just like the governor has said, you need the garrison troops, the people that will be there, maybe not military, and then there's something developing now that is very interesting, and I believe that by the time it cuts across all, you are talking about constabulary police now. Recently, the Borno State government, 400 of them, the civilian JTF. So those kind of a bridge between the security agencies and then the populace will also help a great lot, that can give information quickly and they will now go for farm patrol and all. That is an area that it can be exploited and will be exploited, because normally you shouldn't come out in the media to give all the plans that you have, because we review our plans moment by moment as it develops. Everything is dynamic now, just like the ICT world that we have. So that is a possibility.
Well, there is something you said that got me interested, and I think a number of people might be interested as well. You said that what happens in the Northwest in some cases, that these criminals, they have their own intelligence unit or outlay as well, and so they inform on security agents to these, bandits and criminals, as you put them, and so as soon as you pass by, they foment trouble. Is there any such among the military that has infiltrated the civilian populace in the Northeast as well, such that these do not happen, so that we can get ahead of this, to give information that, okay, this is going to happen? I mean, maybe people from the military, a few people among, the military, who would be also within those communities to ensure that they tell on the criminals as well, just as they receive information about military activities.
Well, this question is a very direct and good question. But it will not help me and you. It will not help the people in the Northeast. It will not help my brothers and sisters who are fighting there if I answer it directly. And it is not good. You know, the source of information, where your enemies get information, is what we are doing now.
Okay. Well, there is also
so
that one that
we have a robust package. You must listen to me this one. We have a robust package of getting our information, but the nitty-gritty is not good to give on the air, sir.
Challenge here is these security issues still occur. 40 people, more than 40 people have died. The United Nations puts it at 110 or thereabouts, which is why this question is being asked. So if they can get ahead of us, there will be an issue. And I understand that you may not have, you won't be able to give all the security information out. But then there is also that which the governor said of government recruiting some of the locals in the various areas into the security apparatus to help in all of this security fighting and all of that. What's your take on that?
Yes, that is a high-level decision that has to be taken. You know, it's a high-level decision because if now you talk about getting people from a particular area, from a zone, into the armed forces, which is a federal civil service, there has to be a lot of considerations. There is something about balance and all, but again, you look at the situation on the ground. So it is beyond the military to say, look, increase your quota in the armed forces. That is what I'm saying directly. So it's a high-level decision that has to be taken beyond the military.
You veered into the Northwest the other time, so let me also go there. We know that Operation Safe Haven is going on, and despite that, just as you heard before we took the first break, 8 people have been killed as a result of attack and counterattack, according to the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs in Kaduna State. Can you give us a brief background of what happened and how the military is able to get ahead of it?
Yeah, I don't. It will not be fair for me to respond or react to what the Commissioner of Internal Security has said. But however, I'm in the position that I get the report almost at the same time, if not on the same platform that he gets. And I also have the privilege of speaking with the commander to also tell me things that they may not be able to, to divulge. And of course, there is nothing in that regard. And the simple fact is that what I can say is that we have followed the trend. For instance, in that area, the moment from either side, either a header is killed on that passes through a farmland or from the other side is killed, not too long, that has been the trend since the whole of this started, I think for about before COVID-19. And it is linked to what has been in that area. So more often, it is reprisal. If I will say that you kill somebody from the other side, now you have like two sides, the farmer headers and then the settlers, the people are the southern Kaduna people, the indigenous people or whatever. So the situation tends more to be issue of reprisal. That is what I can say from my own analysis of the information provided by the troops on the ground. And what we have done was to enhance the force package with special forces, both from the Defense Headquarters Special Forces, which is a combination of the Nigerian Army, Navy, and Air Force, and then special forces from the Air Force again, and other security agencies. That is the way we have now enhanced that force package there. And I believe that if not for that, the situation would have been worse than it is now. So that is what we are doing. And like this one that has happened, yes, some of the people, the criminals arrested, they will give information that will be a lead. Of course, we have the state service with us. We have plainclothes policemen that are operating with us also. So that is the way we are going about that.
If we can go back to the Northeast now briefly, because there's been some form of, do I say misinformation, or some information is not quite clear. And I'd like you to just clarify for the record. So earlier yesterday, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs put out a statement saying 110 people were killed. And then I think that statement was amended saying tens of people were killed. What we have is over 40. So what exactly is the death toll of that killing in Borno State over the weekend, just to put it out there?
Yes, immediately I got that information. I had to contact the people in the theater, right from the commander, or the commanders, theater commander, the GOC, and then the media operations officer that was there, and people that were even on the ground, to give me rather the details, so that because I have to respond, I knew it was going to come up, particularly that is coming from the United Nations, and not, like they say, a source that does not want to be identified. This is a source that identified itself, that look over 110 specifically. And I asked them what happened, and they now gave me a synopsis, a story of what happened. When the governor was to go, when people that have, recovered the dead, they requested and that the troops must be on ground. Of course, the troops had to move in there, and they assisted in counting, and they counted 43. Of course, the other people that they interviewed was that since some people ran into the bush, some people ran away, and they started coming back and trickling in. As at 2 p.m. yesterday, I called them, and they got back to me at about 7 p.m. yesterday, still counting, looking for if they will recover, and we call it exploitation. After action review. After action review, as I speak to you, up to when I came here, was still on. Probably we may count up to the figure he gave in the future. But as it is, up to when I came here, what we have counted with the locals here is still 43. And we are hoping that we don't get beyond that. And then even if there are people that ran into the bush like missing in action, they should come back alive. So that is the situation, the real situation. I did not sleep on. We had to follow it because this is very, very relevant. If it was somebody like, say, look, don't mention my name, an informant that does not want to be named, normally we know that nowadays we have a lot of people that have turned themselves into journalists. They just give information that they are not requested to. They are just busybody all over the whole place. But now United Nations saying that, so we need to follow it squarely, and we are following it. And we come out with what the situation is at. Before I came into the studio, is still that figure.
Okay, we'll go on a break in about a minute and a half, General, but I just need to get this one out also. Now, this attack happened at a time that they were electing local government officials, first time in 13 years. And, this was going to be a major breakthrough, having to conduct these elections. But seeing this attack now, has it affected anything in that regard, or do you even think it's related to that election in some sense?
My dear, I think that question should not be for me. You are talking about election. Ask me a question about operations. But however, as somebody at my level, definitely for human beings it will affect. Psychologically, and it may be one of the reasons to distract people and to discourage them.
Well, because the truth is, you have said that this is Boko Haram is against Western education, they're against anything government-wise. So it's natural, people thinking maybe the elections are related to the attack. But we'll need to go on a break now. And when we come back, we'll talk about fresh ideas, because that's what a lot of people are clamoring for. How do we get fresh ideas into this theater of operations such that we get better results moving forward? And we'd like to, hear from you in a moment. Please stay with us.
Definitely so many issues to look at when we talk about tackling insecurity in Nigeria. But General Enenche, you want to react to what you just heard the former governor of Kaduna State say, that there is a need to rejig the security architecture. Many times people don't really understand what that means. When we talk about rejigging the security architecture, as many have said, what are we talking about? And is there a need for us to change strategy now, especially in the Northeast?
When you talk about rejigging security architecture as it is now in this country, it means different things to so many people. I will want to look at the training and then the best practice when you talk about an issue like this, or any issue at all that has become topical. You define it, you conceptualize it before you talk about it. And my own conceptualization and definition of rejigging the architecture is about strategy that we are applying in the field, not anything beyond that. So I would not want to directly toe the line of, the governor, as he has said it. That is by believing, because I read a lot, I read widely, and so many people look at it from different perspectives. But let us look at it from this perspective, which is in my purview and my responsibility. The strategy is what we, tinker with every other time. As I speak with you, we hold meetings every other time, particularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But at short notice, we call the meetings, the High Command of the Armed Forces, and then we begin to think of what we need to do to make it better. Just like what has happened now, just happened on Saturday, that of course they have been farming there for a long time. If you now look at if you look at the whole scenario as it played out, it's not that farming you just don't just come today, tomorrow, and then you stay there for weeks. Or I know that in that area they even have farm camps. There was a particular time, 2018, that the army even empowered them with tractors and all, by way of civil military cooperation. So rejigging now is for us now to sit down, and which we have started as far back as that when the incident was reported up to yesterday. How do we make it better? So that is what I say that we do, generally. What about the force package? How do we make the force package now? We're looking at the composition of the force. We're looking at the approach, the tactics, right to the tactics, and then the operational moves that we do there. The campaign plan cell, we now sit down at the various theaters, particularly that is the various sectors in that area, and then come up where we see that there are things that we need to do better. We do it, and we do that constantly. If there is need to rotate, if there is need to change, we change, and all those things.
But
so
General,
that is what we do.
Perhaps,
and that is
perhaps
the
there is
way
a
we
need.
are looking at rejigging our own.
Just a moment. Perhaps there is a need to, help people understand why this is continuing, because there are some things that are cast in stone, or so to speak. The terrain in the Northeast. A number of people would talk about vast, ungoverned areas in the Northeast and expansive areas of bad roads that so many times we have had, information in the social media and everywhere else that the military loses a lot of hardware trying to get from point to point. A place that ordinarily should take maybe about 5 minutes takes hours to get across. So in that light, those challenges are there. Those terrain challenges are there. And if the strategies that we have not worked, what is going to work? You talked about this, farm camps and all of that, which the survivor also referenced. How helpful has that been? So again, I ask, if there is anything that we need to change, especially in our approach and, as you said, our tactics, given the difficulty of this terrain that's usually vast and, as they say, ungoverned.
Look, let's look at that, what they refer to as ungoverned and ungoverned over the time. Yes, there is a challenge in that regard, but we are all home and dry with the COVID-19 pandemic that gave all sectors, as far as I am concerned, I stand to be corrected, setbacks in their timelines of achievement. We are all aware that out there that we have to make UAVs and then other devices that could provide surveillance for us beyond the normal human surveillance and the equipment that we have. All those ones, we were packaged to take care of this. Now, for the production of military equipment, it's not something that is like cooking. It's a mechanical device. It's not, thank God that it's not even a chemical device where if you stop, you have to go around all over again. We have them in place, and then production was on. But when COVID-19 came, it affected it, so it gave the setback. Otherwise, this plan of covering ungovernable terrain with UAVs and then what they call kites in the air, all of them were in place, and the technical partners, the original equipment producers also had to obey COVID-19 rules of maybe sending people away to regroup. And even then, in some parts of the world that we are getting this equipment from, the second wave of COVID-19 came. So I needed to give this up because it's not like the High Command, the Armed Forces has not made provision for that. They had the foresight, it was projected that we need to get equipment. And provisions were made. We went to, of course, our DIC does not produce, it's not at that level for now, but they are getting there. So that is what the strategic plan at strategic level of the High Command, even operational level that we have, that by the time these platforms, force multipliers come into place, is going to be a game changer. And that is what we are hoping for, that, it will, with the COVID-19 now going down, all over the whole place, and factories, original equipment manufacturers are coming back to work. We believe that maybe the shift in the agreement for all this equipment and platforms will not take too long. So that is that. Then for the tactics, we sit down, like we do now. We have this one, I think I can give it out. We have the mobile strike teams, as it were, then before we now change to Army Super Camps. Then within that one now, we will still need to, what we are doing to ensure that we have the packets that can penetrate, using the terrain, as it were, with the relevant equipment. And that was why you see that the Army particularly came up with the issue of motorcycle battalions and all those things. So all those things are the change of, tactics that are being implemented. Okay.
General, Senator Ali Ndume, who is the chairman Senate Committee on the Army, said the military is not funded enough. Is it true?
Well, you see, I cannot talk on that. Funding. I'm a coordinator of the defense media operations. Why should I be talking on funding now? Funding is above my schedule of responsibilities. So spare me that one.
But I ask that because, just as you said, we lose equipment that need to be replaced, and consequently, if those equipment are not replaced, there would be a challenge, of being able to tackle these insecurity issues that we're having. That's the reason I'm asking. How quickly are you able to replace equipment of the military?
At my operational level.
Yes, exactly. So how quickly are you able to replace equipment that get bad in the course of work?
Our replacement is normal, is at the normal rate. Once we meet, particularly on Fridays, they give us information. We talk just like virtually. They give their situation reports about equipment that they need to be replaced for the various sections, and then we work it out with logistics and then send it across to them.
Speaking of those situation reports, just to put it on record, you also put it out last week that our troops, eliminated about 108 bandits and scores of terrorists across the northeast and the northwest, just to show the work that our troops are doing, which we are forever indebted to them. But, earlier on, we were talking about fresh ideas, and I'm sure you've been following the conversation or not, but there are a lot of people calling for fresh ideas. And the question is, on your own table, do you need fresh ideas?
Of course, we need fresh ideas. Like I was at the graduation ceremony of Army War College on Friday last week. Incidentally, I was a commandant there before. And what we do from my time, we now play what we call exercise Star Ride. We have the similar one at the National Defense College, even at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College. We now play real lifetime exercise. You bring the scenario as it is, as peak, present, continue, present, to the participants and the students, and they play it out and they wargame it. They see where there are areas that they could improve upon, and then they bring out their report. Those are fresh ideas because it is dynamic. So we get input from the war colleges and then the NDC, and then also we have planning teams for every operation. We have a central planning team at Defense Headquarters, and the same thing replicated at the Services Headquarters. And those are the people that are now, the groups now, come up with these ideas. What I can tell you, I can assure you that most of the things we do progressively are never in the past. What we did last week may not be the same with what we are going to do this week. So that is the fresh ideas. That is how we generate them from the various components that I have mentioned.
So the question now will be, does a change of leadership, in this case the service chiefs, will that also bring fresh ideas perhaps from the top? Because that's also one thing that a lot of people have been calling for.
Well, you are not being fair to me asking me that question about change of service chiefs, because I cautioned you, the person that contacted me, I cautioned the person, is beyond me. You should be fair. You know where to channel these questions to. So I don't, how can a Major General, Coordinator, Defense Media Operations, will be asking him how will the change of service chiefs, affect this? So please leave that one out.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. The question is just, does fresh ideas come also from the top? Which is why I said, will the change in leadership also guarantee fresh ideas? So you said fresh ideas come from the men. How about the top? Does it come also from the top?
My training is bottom-up approach. That is the new training as intercontinental system. It comes from the bottom up. Then you now look at it at the top. I have been a commander. I have been a commandant. So that is the way it works. Our intercontinental staff system, which is very effective and works. You don't look down on your subordinates. You don't look down on your junior commanders. They are the people out there in the field. I was in the field several years ago, up to when I became a colonel, commanded a peace or support operations and came back. So you get it better from, is the bottom-up approach that is better.
Right.
From our teaching and from our experience. Because if you now go and bear on them, that means you are lording it over your subordinates. No, you carry them along. They bring up their ideas. Then you look at it.
Well, Alice, thank you for shedding more light on that. We appreciate. But on a final note, as we wind down, do you think it's sometimes unfair when people blame the military a lot for some of these insecurity challenges? Do you sometimes sit back and say, well, it's not just the army. There's a police. There's the NSCDC. So to what extent do you think that Nigerians should understand who is in charge of what and where to channel some of these grievances to?
Well, it is unfortunate that we have to be channeling grievances, particularly for a security issue. I think more education about what each agency, particularly the security outfits, should do. That education will help a lot. Of course, the armed forces is supposed to protect the territorial integrity, and then going down like that to provide support to the civil authorities, and then going further to support other security agencies when they are overwhelmed. So there is stage by stage. So to cut across and blame all the security agencies, it will not be too good. It's just like, and also the populace also have their own part to play. There are parts of the world where the civilians take it upon themselves to report promptly. But from my own experience over the years, I discovered that it takes a lot of prompting for people to come forward with information. So if we will blame, the blame should not be narrowed down to the military and then to the security agencies. And I want to recommend that all the stakeholders should educate the general public more on the need to participate in the whole of tackling the security situation, and it will go a long way in helping all of us.
Well, Major General John Enenche, Coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Defense Headquarters, thank you so much this morning, and we wish you all the best all the time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.